So please, as we go along, write your question in the chat and we will address it either in the Q&A portion, or if we're unable to get to it at the end of the meeting, we will post the responses on our website after our presentation is done. If you'd like to ask a verbal question during this meeting, please wait until the Q&A portion and virtually raise your hand by using the reactions menu at the bottom of the Zoom screen and then selecting raise hand. Once your hand is raised, we will call on you to ask your question. Today, we will hear from several speakers about the Climate Pollution Reduction Grant and the work being done by the state of Georgia. We will have a Q&A portion at the end. And now I will turn it over to the Assistant Chief of the Air Protection Branch, Deanna Ozer, to introduce today's speakers.
Thank you, Eleanor. Welcome, everyone. Georgia EPD has done a lot of work on our initial plan for the Climate Pollution Reduction Grant. I'm very proud of the work that we have done on these plans and look forward to hearing from all of our speakers and from your feedback as well. So let me go ahead and introduce our speakers. Claudette Ayanaba started working at the Georgia EPD Air Branch in 2008 as a permit engineer in the Minerals Unit. After receiving her master's in environmental planning and management, she transferred to our Planning and Regulatory Development Unit, PRDU, as a rule writer. For the past 3 years, she was a policy manager at the Southeast Energy Efficiency Alliance. But in the summer of 2023, we got her back to PRDU, and she now manages the Climate Pollution Reduction Grant. She has also earned her BS in Physics from Spelman College, a BS in Mechanical Engineering from Georgia Institute of Technology, and an MS in Environmental Planning and Management from Johns Hopkins University. We will also be hearing from Anna Aponte. Anna has a bachelor's degree in chemical engineering from Georgia Tech, and she began her career here at the Air Branch Permitting Program and was a permit engineer for 13 years. She became an expert with the permitting of power plants and worked on the early stages of our NOx SIP call for Georgia. Later, Anna decided to go to the private sector and work for Georgia Power, continuing her work with power plants and the complex regulatory issues they face. Finally, we got Anna back as well, and she has been working in the Planning and Regulatory Development Unit on SIP development projects, as well as rule development. Anna is the current PRDU manager as of September 2021. So if you'll go to the agenda, thank you. I will turn it over to Claudette for an update on the state's work on the Climate Pollution Reduction Grant.
Thank you, Deanna. Welcome all. Today, we will talk about the Peach State Voluntary Emissions Reduction Plan. Then we will talk a little bit about implementation grant applications. We will go through other federal funding opportunities and next steps and what is going to come next for CPRG work. Since we last convened, EPD submitted the first Climate Pollution Reduction Grant deliverable, the Priority Climate Action Plan. Our plan is named Peach State Voluntary Emission Reduction Plan, or Peach State Plan for short. We have a full description of the CPRG planning grant that can be found on our website. So maybe you're joining us for the first time and you would like to catch up on what has gone on for the past year. You can do that by going to our website and watching all of our past webinars and presentations. On the due date of March 1st, EPD was able to submit a letter that listed our priority measures. Then on March 8th, we submitted the Peach State Voluntary Emissions Reduction Plan. The letter and plan, again, are, as I said before, are linked on our website, and we will also post a link in the chat. For now, I'll provide a synopsis of what was in the plan. Here we have what was required of the Priority Climate Action Plan, or Peach State Plan. First, we have the greenhouse gas inventory that we built off of Drawdown Georgia's statewide emissions inventory, or Georgia Emission Tracker. Then we quantified greenhouse gas reduction measures by developing a list and then performing a modeling analysis for each measure. We listed co-pollutants that we developed a base year inventory for co-pollutants that will be a basis for our benefits analysis. For the low income and disadvantaged communities benefits analysis, we identified the communities and then we matched each of our priority measures with the benefits that may be achieved by each community. We were required to provide a review of authority to implement and also list out intersection with other funding availability. On the left here, we have our greenhouse gas emission trends that were provided by Dr. Bill Drummond of Drawdown, Georgia project. The line chart spans the years of 1990 to 2020 and shows that we have electricity as an orange line, transportation as a gray line, forestry in green, and then less than those are industry, that's in blue, and then the other sectors are their emissions are pretty small. We'd like to call attention to the high point in electricity generation in 2006, which then declined substantially since then. Also, transportation has increased 3 to 4 years ago. It started going up. Beginning in the mid-2000s, a number of coal plants began installing controls, and then you'll see a steep drop starting in 2015 as plants began retiring and were replaced by natural gas turbines. Natural gas has half the emissions of coal-fired plants, but Georgia still does have 2 coal-fired plants in operation. Then on the right, we have a bar chart that shows us a snapshot of emissions from each sector. Again, we have power generation in orange, forestry in green, and transportation in gray. Our forestry sinks and sequestration is so significant that it is almost equal to the amount that we emit in electricity. Here we have a quantified analysis of our prioritized greenhouse gas reduction measures. How do we get to this list? Many of you all on this call helped us to get to this list, and what we did was solicit broad stakeholder input to inform measure selection, which included a request for information, an emissions reduction measures survey, and also a public survey. We developed an initial list of topics and themes across multiple sectors and presented them to the steering committee, which then they were refined from there. We also developed a priority list of measures that aligned with additional funding that was available under phase 2, the implementation grant. And we considered some of the co-benefits. We landed on this list, the 21 measures that fall within 7 strategies. We are proud to say that we touched on all 6 key CPRG sectors. And then once we developed this list, using the Rocky Mountain Institute Energy Policy Simulator, we assumed levels of growth for each measure. And then from that, we quantified the amount of emissions reductions that we may achieve from growing each of these measures. From there, we see, please note that the lists that are highlighted green achieve the greatest emission reduction for that strategy. And then in blue, recycling is highlighted because we received the largest emissions reduction from recycling using our assumptions. For the LIDAC analysis, just to back up a little bit, in order to advance these goals and support CPRG development, EPA wanted to show the impact communities that are marginalized, underserved, and overburdened by pollution, to see what and to have us estimate the benefits that may accrue in low income and disadvantaged communities from the implementation of those 21 emission reduction measures. So here on the left, we have the community map by block group, which combines the climate and economic justice screening tool and EJ Screen to highlight communities above the 90th percentile in any state level supplemental index or national level supplemental index. In other words, or another way to say that is, these communities are federal designation for a census tract that meets certain income criteria, as well as criteria related to other categories of burden. And then once we identified those communities, we matched we then identified benefits that the communities could achieve from each of the 21 priority reduction measures. 3 more requirements that we included in our plan are the benefits analysis, review of authority, and other funding availability. For the benefits analysis, we quantified estimates of co-pollutant reductions for co-pollutants such as PM 2.5 and nitrous oxide, et cetera. For the review of authority, we found that all of the 21 measures can be implemented without new and or additional regulatory or legislative authority. And we were able to find funding availability for each of the 21 priority measures on federal level and some on the state level. EPD would like to thank all of our project partners. We would like to thank you for your contribution, which really helped us produce a more robust plan and was representative of all of Georgia. We also want to acknowledge the class of Dr. Marilyn Brown. Graduate students this past semester took some of the reduction measures that were listed in the plan and conducted even deeper analysis of those measures. They're very helpful, and you may find them a helpful resource for your work. So we will have those posted in the link in the chat so that you can go to the recordings of the work they did and learn from what they were able to produce this past semester. In September, EPA released phase 2 of and this is the competitive part of CPRG. $4.6 billion was available for state and local governments to apply to implement any of the reduction measures that we had listed in our plan. EPD Air Protection Branch, we applied for the Tier D level, and that's $41 million we asked for. In our application, we would fund 100 school buses and 100 level 2 chargers. We also included an ask for funding for training of the maintenance and fleet operators and bus drivers. The program, if awarded, will be fashioned or designed after our Diesel Emissions Reduction Act grant. And for those that are not familiar, there's a link at the bottom, but our DERA, the Georgia DERA grant, that's a state administered grant from EPA, within that, we supply funds for a portion of diesel engine school buses to be retrofitted or replaced with a newer diesel engine. If awarded this grant, we will the program will be similar to the DEER grant, but will provide funds for the whole of a school bus to replace a diesel school bus. And also, we wanted to note that the application focused on the high impact on market transformation that the funds could provide, and also the immense amount of reduction in tailpipe emissions that could be achieved. Georgia also entered into a coalition with Tennessee. Tennessee was the lead applicant and applied for the highest tier, Tier A. They asked for $394 million. Here we have the states that were included in the coalition: Tennessee, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, and the city of Bowling Green in Kentucky. The application asked to broaden Tennessee Valley Authority programs, which will touch upon weatherization of residential houses, energy efficiency at residential, commercial, and industrial buildings, and also commercial and industrial energy audits and lighting upgrades at those commercial and industrial buildings. Just to note that we have a small portion of Northwest Georgia that is in the Tennessee Valley Authority territory. It makes up about 6% of TVA, which is also about 2% of Georgia geographically. Our other lead agency, the Atlanta Regional Commission, applied for the following two funding opportunities and supported one. So as a lead applicant, sole lead applicant, they applied to enhance their Green Communities program. They also entered into a coalition with several statewide partners for an e-bike and transit incentives. And then they supported several Atlanta area cities with an EV fleet coalition. And we have the detail, some information about each of their applications are on the slide, but if you have additional questions, we'll have an email address that you can send your questions to. We'd also like to know if anyone on this call applied to additional funds during phase 2. Did your local government apply? We'd love to see the amazing applications that did go in to EPA to get some more funding under this grant. We might not know everyone who applied until they make their announcement later on in July, but we would like to know earlier than that if we can. So as I said, EPA says that they will make announcements on who has been awarded implementation grant funds, probably by the end of July. That's what we heard. And then they plan to make the actual awards sometime in October. There's also other federal funding opportunities. So CPRG implementation grant is not the only money that is available. Here we have 4 upcoming federal opportunities. We have listed the link to the website of the opportunity, who is eligible for each opportunity, when the deadline is. All of these are upcoming, some are very soon. And then the link to the agency who's administering the grant. This is just 4 of the many, many federal opportunities that are available. I tried to provide some links to where you can find other federal funding opportunities, and we'll also make sure those are available to you. And now we will hear from Anna about what EPD will work on for the next year.
Thank you, Claudette. I'm going to jump into what we're discussing and calling now economy and environment in Georgia. This is a great chart showing that we can work on improving the air and the economy without sacrificing one for the other. We have seen significant decreases in air emissions while also growing our economy. As you can see, the gross domestic product from 1990 has grown over 386%, all the way up to, I believe that's at the very top, in 2021. And there's many different ways that we can both support each other in still developing the economy while still protecting the environment. Here are some of those examples. In Georgia, we have seen significant growth in one particular sector, electric generation by solar panels. The chart on the left shows that Georgia is 7th in the nation as far as solar states. We're in that top 10 in the terms of the generation capacity, and that has changed a lot over the last years. Then we see the growth in the clean energy and clean environment economy as we see jobs coming in for battery production, EV manufacturing, or parts and distribution. Jobs are needed throughout the state and need to be in a very diverse work groups. They range from trades to design to project management. I'm going to jump into next steps. Claudette started off with what was included in our first Peach State Plan. We now have to expand the list of reduction measures, and then we have to work to conduct a more in-depth co-pollutant and LIDAC benefits analysis. Here's what we are required to add to our comprehensive plan. We have to provide near-term, meaning 2020, 2030, 2035 timeframe, and long-term out to 2050 comprehensive economy-wide greenhouse gas future year emissions projections. We also have to provide near-term and long-term comprehensive economy-wide greenhouse gas reduction targets. Then we have to perform an analysis of workforce strengths and weaknesses to support the workforce expansion and development. To assist us in this LIDAC section, EPD has formed a LIDAC committee. We asked our 12 regional commissions in Georgia to nominate a nonprofit from their region to serve on our committee. We received a variety of organizations throughout the state that represent a vast array of communities, perspectives. These include food pantries, river keepers, neighborhood associations, and so on. So it is a wonderfully diverse group, and we are thrilled. And this will help us to expand our reach for our comprehensive plan. We ask that the committee members commit to the following. We need them to attend 6 meetings. Most of these will be virtual from now until next June of 2025. In a partnership with us at Georgia EPD, and host informational meetings in their LIDAC, and assist us with developing a public survey and distribute that survey to their LIDAC communities. We had a very exciting kickoff meeting just last week, and we look forward to the work that may come out of this committee. I'm going to jump through real quick on how you can keep up to date and how to get in contact with us. The fastest and best way to find out what is happening is to sign up for our announcements, and that is the first QR code on the left, and it says EPD updates. That will take you to our sign up for our email delivery system. It will also take longer for you all sometimes to get answers through email. We do our very best to get back to everyone that calls or emails, but it is 2 of us. So please be patient. You can always check out our website, which is the center QR code, where we keep all information up to date. and put new developments, and things like this presentation and recording will be on there as well. And then the QR code on the right is to ARC's website so that you can stay up to date on anything that they have going on. Here is how you can find all of us. Georgia EPD, we have created a Georgia CPRG email. You can send emails to that, and me and Claudette received both of those, so we will get in touch with you as soon as we can. The Atlanta Regional Commission has created an email that is climate@atlantaregional.org. If there's any specific questions you have, please feel free to send them to us so we can help you guys navigate through this whole process. Now we're going to go to the Q&A. If you guys do have any questions, please put those into the chat. We will run through those as many as we can. I mean, we do still have 30 minutes left on our time slot. So feel free to put questions in the chat. You can also raise your hand in the Zoom meeting feature, and we can call on you and unmute your line. We have one question in the chat from Eddie. What about infrastructure to facilitating alternative commuting methods? Claudette, do you have some insight you would like to provide?
I wonder if Eddie could explain a little bit more about his question. Is it for the work we put into the Peach State plan or future work?
So this would be sort of a future work question. While I notice that there's a lot of money here going into like new buildings that may be greener, vehicles that might be greener, sort of infrastructure and general things that might be greener without us changing our lives too much. As you guys might be aware, I happen to cycle to work often. I did today before the power went out and came back home. What I was wondering is for folks like me, because I know I'm not the only person who cycles to work, these funds could be potentially used to put in things like showers or bike racks or other infrastructure pieces, even a rack for skateboarding for people skateboarding, or foot massager for people walking, whatever. Stuff that helps those of us who decide we want to change our lifestyle to not use any type of car and figure, so we want to change our lifestyle to do not any type of car and figure that, is there a way to use this grant to help us?
That was an option. We did include adapt to mode shift as one of our measures. And so local governments were available to apply for funding under that measure, adapt to mode shift, which includes, for example, bike lanes, as you mentioned. We don't know if anybody did apply for under adapt to mode shift. We know ARC did have a coalition application for the e-bike and transit application that they put in. We would have to look and see if anyone applied under this grant for what you're specifically asking about. There are it's just millions of dollars available out there that it's kind of hard to keep track if there's any other opportunities that are specific to what you are identifying. But hopefully we will have some identified for this next phase in our plan also.
Okay, well, I'm glad it's an option. Thank you.
Thank you, Eddie.
Claudette, we have another one that this one's right up your alley. The purpose of our LIDAC committee. And since this is your baby, as we are calling it, her creation, I'll let her talk about the purpose and what we hope to do.
Sure, sure. So with the LIDAC requirement, EPA has asked us not only to identify LIDACs, but also engage with those communities. For the Peach State Plan for our first phase, we sent out a public survey to all communities and then partnered with Partnership for Southern Equity to expand our reach to marginalized and underserved communities. We are going to take that step further and expand our outreach to all of Georgia. We want to make sure that every voice is heard outside of the Atlanta area, plus the Atlanta area. And so that's why we're partnering with the regional commissions to identify nonprofits in their region that can help us to get the word out about CPRG to communities that might typically not be engaged in the process. We plan to put out another survey, a public survey, and we are asking committee members to help us with just distributing those surveys to their communities. So those are the two asks of the committee, is to get the word out about CPRG, to accomplish our requirement of engaging with communities, and secondly is to get our public survey out to more people. And I see some people mentioning application things that they applied for. So glad to hear Middle Georgia applied for electric vehicles, weatherization, and landfill upgrades. And then thank you, River Valley. They applied for funding under afforestation and reforestation. And if funding, they will use the grant funds to enhance tree canopies in our downtowns to increase carbon sequestration. Those are both very exciting. Thank you all.
And we have Heather Dyla has her hand raised. Please go ahead and unmute yourself. Yes, what is your question?
Thank you. I'm curious what your interaction has been with the DOTs. I work for a construction contractor in your guys' regions, and often my role is to help them with decarbonization and sustainability, but we are coming up against barriers of the low bid system and resistance to even incentivizing any types of reductions when it comes to the body carbon of the materials of which government purchases from. So I was curious to know if anyone on this call has thought about that. I know that you guys focused on the energy use of buildings and energy reductions, LEDs. Well, there's a lot we can do in our industry, low-hanging fruit that just isn't getting the incentives because of the current system. And it's often honestly overlooked because we like to focus on the use phase.
Right. Heather, we did include our state DOT as part of our steering committee. So they did have input on our plan and what we put in there. The plan we put together is also the product of what we were told. So we put together ideas that we felt like would be of interest, but we also needed the input from the counties, cities, and other agencies. So if you didn't see a measure listed in there that you would think that would be a low-hanging fruit, it may not have been suggested to us during our first phase planning period. But we do have our DOT and our Atlanta Transit Link Authority as two agencies in our steering committee. So they are aware of what we're doing, and they had input on what we put together in our initial Peach State plan.
Do you know if they went, sorry, as a follow-up, for any of the FHWA grants? Because or did they choose not to even go for those?
I'm that I can tell you I don't know. I'm not certain which grants if DOT went after. I know I've heard them talking about NEVI, which of course is the charging infrastructure along like the interstates and things. Beyond that, we generally do not know what our other sister agencies have been applying for. So unless they specifically told us, like with the NEVI grant, we are generally not aware.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anna McQuarrie.
Hi, yeah, good morning. Sorry, I came in late to this presentation, but just a note on GDOT. So I work for the Coastal Regional MPO down in Savannah. And actually I just heard about this plan when it came out, so I was excited to see it. But just thinking about GDOT, have you, to respond to Heather, I don't know if you're familiar with their carbon reduction strategy, or the carbon reduction program. But that came out, I believe, late last year or early this year. And I believe there are some ways for MPOs to maybe apply for money or like put projects that they've like created an entire outline how that would contribute to the CRS or how CRS money could potentially funnel down. I haven't figured that out quite myself, but that is maybe one potential funding avenue if you want to look into it, or maybe you've already done that.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you for adding that to the conversation. It's so helpful when others on the in the convening can add to that. So I hope that was helpful, Heather. Our next question is, several Georgia cities, counties have developed climate action plans that have been very helpful to identify local priorities. How could other cities and counties in Georgia find support to develop their plan? So this grant is specifically to support a state plan, but we do have the links to EPA announcements on the federal funding slide, and that may be an avenue for cities and counties to find additional funding opportunities and resources. And I'll also post that in the chat.
I'm not seeing any other questions. Heather, yes, absolutely. You can be a part of the conversation. I will try my very best to send you an email as soon as we wrap up here. We just want to thank you all for being involved in this entire process. And, you know, moving forward, we get to develop our comprehensive plan. And yes, we will post the recording and the slides on our website. It should be in the next few days, maybe by next week at the latest. And so all of that information will be put up onto our website. And we just want to thank you all for being here and being a part of this entire process. Hope you all have a great afternoon.